Hello students, good morning. Once again, welcome back to English lecture. Today we are going to learn English Kumar Bharti Unit 4, lesson number 4.4. Today we are going to learn the poem The Height of the Ridiculous by Oliver Wendell Holmes. Before moving to the explanation part of the poem, first let me introduce about the poet. The poem The Height of the Ridiculous is written by the poet Oliver Wendell Holmes. Oliver Wendell Holmes, August 29, 1809 to October 7, 1894, was an American physician, poet and polymath based in Boston. A member of the Fireside Poets, he was acclaimed by his peers as one of the best writers of the day. His most famous prose works are the Breakfast Table series. He was also an important medical reformer. In addition to his work as an author and poet, Holmes also served as a physician, professor, lecturer, and inventor. And although he never practiced it, he received formal training in law. So let's begin with the poem. I wrote some lines once on a time in wondrous merry mood, and thought, as usual man would say, they were exceeding good. They were so queer, so very queer, I laughed as I would die. Albeit in the general way, a sober man am I. Here, the word wondrous means delightful or wonderfully. The word albeit means though, and the word sober means serious minded or clear headed or serious. Here, the poet says that once when he was in a very happy mood, he wrote a few lines. He thought, as usual, people would appreciate them and say that they were very good. The lines were very funny, and even though he was generally a sober man, means a serious man, so while reading them, he thought that he would die of laughing. I called my servant and he came. How kind it was of him to mind a slender man like me, he of the mighty limb. This to the printer I exclaimed, and in my humorous way I added as a trifling jest, there will be the devil to pay. Here the poet says that he called his servant a strong man. He remarks that it was kind of the servant to look after a thin man like him. He asked him to take them to the printer, adding lightly that there would be strong reactions to it. He took the paper and I watched and saw him peep within. At the first line he read, his face was all upon the green. He read the next, the green grew broad and shot from ear to ear. He read the third, a chuckling nose. I now began to hear. Here the praise chuckling noise means laughing quietly or inwardly. And here the praise shot from ear to ear means grin from ear to ear. It means to have a broad smile. Here the poet says that the servant took the paper, and as the poet watched, he saw him look at what was written. He read the first line and started grinning. As he read the next line, the grin grew wider or broader. When he read the third line, he started chuckling to himself. The fourth, he broke into a roar. The fifth, his waistband split. The sixth, he burst 5 buttons and tumbled in a fit. Here the phrase broke into means suddenly began to do something. And here the word tumble means fell. Here the poet says that at the fourth line, when he read the fourth line, he started roaring with laughter. When he read the fifth line, he laughed so hard that his waistband spilled. And after reading the sixth line, he burst 5 buttons and went into a laughing fit. Means he fell down. 10 days and nights with sleepless eye, I watched that wretched man, and since I never dare to write as funny as I can. Here the poet says that he watched over the helpless man for 10 days and nights without sleeping, and thereafter he never dared to write anything humorous again. Figure of speech in the poem The Height of the Ridiculous. In wondrous merry mood. This figure of speech is tautology. So what do you mean by tautology? When two words or a phrase in a sentence means the same thing, that figure of speech is called as a tautology. So here the word wonder and merry means the same thing. Wonder means happy, merry means also happy. So this figure of speech is called as a tautology. Next, they were so queer, so very queer. This figure of speech is repetition. So what is repetition? When words are repeated in the sentence for poetic effect. So here queer is repeated. So this figure of speech is called as repetition. Next, a sober man am I. It is a inversion. So what do you mean by inversion? When there is no correct prose order, then it is called as a inversion. So the correct prose order will be I am a sober man. So a sober man am I is a inversion. Next, to mind a slender man like me. This figure of speech is alliteration. So what is alliteration? When sounds are repeated in the sentence is called as a alliteration. Here the sound of M is repeated. Next, the green grew broad. So this figure is also a alliteration. Here the sound of G is repeated in this line. Next, and short from year to year. It is a hyperbole. What do you mean by hyperbole? It is an overstatement. So given short year to year, it is an overstatement. So it is called as a hyperbole. Next, he broke into a roar. This figure of speech is called as a onomatopoeia. So what do you mean by onomatopoeia? When a word conveys sound is called as a onomatopoeia. So here roar, it conveys a sound. So this line is broken into a roar. So it is a onomatopoeia. Sound of roar, what it conveys? Sound of roar. Next, 10 days and nights with sleepless eye. It is a transfer epithet. So what do you mean by epithet? Epithet means adjective. So when the adjective is transferred from its rightful noun to another in the sentence is called as a transfer epithet. So here adjective is sleepless, so which is transfer from a rightful noun. So who is sleepless here? Who is sleepless here? The person. So the person is transferred to another noun. Which is the noun here? I. So therefore it is a transfer epithet. Now we are going to learn an appreciation of the poem The Height of the Ridiculous. As per the new format, we have to follow the points while writing an appreciation. So let's see what are the points. First point is title. Title of the poem. Second, poet. Third, rhyme scheme of the poem. Fourth, figure of speech of the poem. And the last one, that is fifth one, theme of the poem or central idea of the poem. So we have to follow these 5 points when we write an appreciation of the poem. So let's see how to write an appreciation of the poem by using the following points. The first point is the poem, and second point will be poet. So the poem and poet, it carries 1 mark, half of mark each. So the poem The Height of the Ridiculous is written by James Wendell Holmes. He was a physician, a novelist, an essayist and a poet. So you have to highlight the important points. Here the name of the poem, you have to highlight it by underline. So and put opening inverted comma and closing important comma. And written by the poet, you have to underline the poet name. And underline also about the poet profession. He was a physician. Underline physician, novelist, essayist and poet. So presentation should be there for getting the full marks. Next, the third point is rhyme scheme. It also carries 1 mark. So the poem has 8 stanzas and the rhyme scheme of the poem is ABCB. So you have to write how many stanzas are there in this poem, and the rhyme scheme of the poem. Full poem is ABCB. So you have to underline the rhyme scheme. Next, the fourth point is figure of speech, which also carries 1 mark. So the poet has used many figures of speech such as alliteration, repetition, inversion, antithesis, tautology and onomatopoeia. But he has used transfer epithet in this following line. 10 days and nights with sleepless eye. In this line, the word sleepless has been used for the poet, not for the eye. Here you have to underline all the figure of speech like alliteration, repetition, inversion, antithesis, tautology, onomatopoeia, and also the transfer epithet. And you have to explain, you have to line which is the line that shows transfer epithet, and you have to explain also about that transfer epithet. So here the sleepless. So the sleepless word is used for the poet. So underline the poet also, and not for the I, underline the I also. So you will get full 1 mark for this point. Now the last point is theme of the poem or central idea of the poem, which carries 2 marks. So the poet tells the readers that once he writes some extremely humorous lines, though he mentions himself as a serious writer. He asks his servant to print those lines, and the servant follows his orders with reading those lines. While reading them, he shows some humorous reactions like smiling, chuckling, laughing loudly, the spilt of his waistband, and the burst of 5 buttons. It makes the reader to expand his or her imagination, because it is said that humans don't laugh without any cause. The main intention of the poet is to entertain the readers. Here also you have to underline the importance points, importance lines, important phrase. Okay. Now we have learned how to write an appreciation with the help of the following points. Now, with the help of the following points, we will write an appreciation of the poem into a paragraph. So let's see how to write an appreciation into a paragraph. So the appreciation of the poem, the height of the ridiculous. You have to write the heading, underline that part. Next, the first point, the poem The Height of the Ridiculous is written by James Wendell Holmes. He was a physician, a novelist, an essayist, and a poet. The poet has used 8 stanzas, and the rhyme scheme of the poem is ABCB. So first paragraph. Second paragraph, figure of speech. The poet has used many figure of speech such as alliteration, repetition, inversion, antithesis, tautology, and onomatopoeia. But he has used transfer epithet in this following line. 10 days and nights with sleepless eye. In this line, the word sleepless has been used for the poet, not for the eye. This you will write in the second paragraph. Third paragraph, the central idea of the poem or the theme of the poem should be written in the third paragraph. The poet tells the readers that once he writes some extremely humorous lines, though he mentions himself as a serious writer. He asks his servant to print those lines, and the servant follows his orders with reading those lines. While reading them, he shows some humorous reactions like smiling, chuckling, laughing loudly, the spilt of his waistband, and the burst of 5 buttons. It makes the reader to expand his or her imagination, because it is said that humans don't laugh without any cause. The main intention of the poet is to entertain the reader. So, you will write the appreciation of the poem into a 3 paragraph for getting 5 marks. So, write into a 3 paragraph, do the presentation properly, put the punctuation mark properly, then you will score good marks in appreciation of the poem.